Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about the standard form of a quadratic relation. A quadratic relation produces the graph of a parabola in the same way that a linear relation produces a graph of a line. So here's our graph of parabola. We've already discussed some of the key terms, but every parabola has a vertex where it changes direction. This parabola opens up. It has two x-intercepts, or zeros, at -1 and 4, where the parabola crosses the x-axis. And then every parabola has one y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis. So Desmos nicely finds for us all kind of the key points of a parabola. And what we're going to talk about in this video is just like a line, a parabola is defined by an equation that connects x and y. So in the last unit in grade 9, we discussed lines. Here's an example of a line, mx plus b, that connects x to y. The equation of parabola works the same way. First thing to notice is that the equation of parabola is always going to be of degree 2. So we're going to have an exponent 2. In fact, the Spanish word for square, cuadrado, is where we get the idea quadratic. So you can always remember that if that helps you think always of a squared term. And this form of a quadratic equation or a quadratic relation is called standard form. We're going to look through different forms of how we can represent a quadratic relation in an equation. This one's called standard form. There's going to be 3 terms, and it's going to be in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So what this means is that a, b, and c are the parameters that kind of define the shape and the location of where our parabola is. So it's a, b, and c are helping us connect x and y in this parabolic shape. And the one thing that we've discussed in class, that we've discovered by looking into some different parabolas, is that the c value, which we also call the constant, the number by itself at the end, gives us the y-intercept. So here I've got an a value of +2, a b value of -6, and a c value of -8. And that c value shows up in the y-intercept. Why don't we graph another parabola in standard form? We could do -2x squared plus 5x plus 3. Let me just change the color. So again, I've got an a value, that's before the x squared term. So that's -2. The b value comes before the x, that's a +5. And the c value is 3. So again, that c value shows up in the y-intercept. So when I've got a quadratic relation in standard form, my c value just tells me the y-intercept. And the other thing that we learned in our investigation in class was that if the a value is negative, so if the parabola's equation, if the right side starts with a negative, it's going to open down. In our purple example, in our red example, when the a value is positive, it opens up. So that's the 2 things that we can learn from an equation in standard form. Why don't we start a new parabola? So let's make up its equation. I'm just going to take the line off the graph so we can kind of chat about it first. So again, this is an equation of a parabola in standard form. We've got ax squared plus bx plus c. The parameters are the numbers. So a is -5. Remember, the negative is going to be part of the term. My b value is -3, and my c value is 12. So because the a value is negative, when I graph this on Desmos, it's going to open down. And the y-intercept, it should cross the y-axis at 0, 12. And let's see if we're right. Maybe we should zoom in a bit. Sure enough, it opens down, and if I click there, my y-intercept is +12. So standard form tells us 2 things. The a value tells us which way we open, and the c value tells us our y-intercept. What happens when I don't have all 3 terms? If I don't have a, b, and c, we have to kind of do a little bit of detective work. So for example, here, I've got, again, an a value of 2 and a b value of 6. If my c value isn't there, it must be 0. So if something disappears, then that parameter, or that coefficient, must have been 0. So a is always attached to the x squared term, b is always attached to the x term, and c is always our constant. So for example, again, I've got 2 terms. We discussed this a little bit in class. Here, though, it's my b value that is 0, because there's nothing being multiplied by x. So I've got a positive a value of 2, so it's going to open up. and a c value or a y-intercept that should be at that point 0, -10. So if I graph this, it's going to open up, and it's got that y-intercept at -10. That's where it crosses the y-axis. That's a brief introduction to standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, and it tells us some important information. It tells us the direction of opening, and it tells us the y-intercept. So that's all we've learned about standard form, and over the next few lessons, we're going to discuss some other useful ways to write the equation of a parabola. Okay, thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.